Hey guys, it's Pastor Bob from First Church Ministries coming again, and hoping you'll enjoy listening to this. We're going to be giving you something. It's not a message, it's just a thought. And I'm looking today at Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. It says, "Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, 'Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you.'" Now, what's happening here is the writer of Hebrews is trying to encourage them through this passage to live with godly contentedness. And the reason why they can have this contentment is because they can know that God is always with them. His love is ever present in their life. But at the very end of this verse, the writer does something that's very interesting. It's peculiar to Greek here. In the English language, if you use two negatives, they cancel each other out. So if you were to tell me, Bob, don't drink that cup of coffee, I could say, I will not drink that cup of coffee, which means I will drink it. But in Greek, if you put two negatives together, what you do is you strengthen that sense of negativeness. I don't even know if that's a word, but you strengthen that sense so the negative gets piled up on itself. And here, the writer uses 5 negatives to pile up the negativity here, to make sure they understand that when he says, I will never leave you, never will I forsake you, literally what he's saying is, I will never leave you, nor, or I will not, never, leave you. So he piles those negatives up to emphasize how strongly God is saying he is always with us. All right? And so it's very interesting. But here also it becomes even more interesting when we begin to get a little bit into the Greek grammar. When the tense is very important here, because when you take these two negatives, and you, in the first part of the verse, so he says, I never, will leave you. Those two, this is in the indicative tense. The verb is in the indicative tense. And what that means is, that means the indicative strengthens it so that you can be certain that this will not happen. God will never leave you. But then in the second half, he says nor, or he says I will not. And then he says never, leave you. So he uses 3 negatives. He piles them up on top of each other. But this time, the verb is in the subjunctive. And what that means in the subjunctive is it means it is not even possible that God could leave us. So in the first half of that little phrase, he's saying you can rest assured that God in no way, you can be certain he will not leave you. In the second half, he says, and you can be certain because it's not even in the realm of possibility. God couldn't leave us because he would deny himself if he did that. And so it is an impossibility for God to leave us. And so we see here that even something like grammar can enhance the meaning of a verse and give us a broader knowledge of what God is trying to tell us here. So here the writer of Hebrews is saying, we can be content because there is a certainty God will not leave us, and it is impossibility for him to forsake us. His love for us is so great, and we can rest in that and find contentment even in the most difficult of circumstances. Not a message, just a thought. Thanks.